Welcome to the 1000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 378th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the fisherman's craft carrying Rose and Hood made the city sitting upon the seashore, the man set about making fast to the land. Now the king of the city was a prince of pith and puissance named Durbus the Lion, and he chanced at that moment to be seated with his son at a window in the royal palace, giving upon the sea. And having to look out seawards, they saw the fishing boat make the land. They observed it narrowly, and espied therein a young lady, as she were the full moon overhanging the horizon edge, with pendants in her ears of costly rubies, and a collar of precious stones about her throat. Hereby the king knew that she must indeed be the daughter of some king or great noble, and going forth of the sea gate of the palace, went down to the boat, where he found the lady asleep, and the fisherman busied in making fast to shore. So he went up to her and aroused her, whereupon she awoke, weeping. And he asked her, Whence comest thou, and whose daughter art thou, and what be the cause of thy coming hither? And she answered, I am the daughter of Ibrahim, Wazir to King Shamikh, and the manner of my coming hither is wondrous, and the cause thereof marvellous. And she told him her whole story, first and last, hiding naught from him. Then she groaned aloud, and recited these couplets. Teardrops have chafed mine eyelids, and railed down in wondrous wise, for parting pain that fills my sprite, and turns to springs mine eyes. Forsake a friend who ever dwells within my vitals home, and I may never win my wish of him in any guise. He hath a favour fair, and bright and brilliant is his face, which every Turk and Arab white in loveliness advise. The sun and fullest moon lout low whenas his charms they sight, and lover-like they bend to him wherein he dight rise. A wondrous spell of gramarye like kohl bedecks his eyne, and shows the bow with shaft on string made ready ere it flies. O thou, to whom I told my case, expecting all excuse, pity a lover white for whom love's shafts such fate devise. Verily, love hath cast me on your coast, despite of me. Of will now weak and fain, I trust mine honour thou wilt prize. For noble men, whenas perchance alight upon their bounds, grace-worthy guests confess their worth and raise to dignities. Then, O thou hope of me, to lovers folly veil afford, and be to them reunion cause, that only life is Lord. And when she ended her verse, she again told the king her sad tale, and shed plenteous tears, and recited these couplets bearing on her case. We lived till saw we all the marvels love can bear. Each month to thee we hope shall fare as Raja fair. Is it not wondrous, when I saw them march upon, that I with water of eyes and heart lit flames that flare, that these mine eyelids ran fast, dropping gouts of blood, that now my cheeks grow gold where rose and lily were, as though the safflower hue that overspread my cheeks were Joseph's coat made stain of lying blood to wear. Now, when the king heard her words, he was certified of her love and longing, and was moved to ruth for her. So he said to her, Fear nothing, and be not troubled. Thou hast come to the term of thy wishes, for there is no help but that I win for thee thy, and bring thee to thy desire. And he improvised these couplets. Daughter of nobles, who thine aim shalt gain, hear gladdest news, nor fear aught hurt or bane. This day I'll pack up wealth and send it on to Shamikh, guarded by a champion train. Fresh pots of musk I'll send him, and brocades, and silver white and gold of yellow vein. Yes, and the letter shall inform him eke, that I of kinship with the kings am fain, and this day will lend thee bestest aid, that all thou covetest thy soul is sane. I, too, have tasted love, and know its taste, and excuse whoso the same cup drain. Then ended his verse, he went forth to his troops, and summoned his Wazir, and causing him to pack up countless treasures, commanded him carry it to King Shamikh, and say to him, Needs must thou send me a person named Uns Al-Wujud, and say moreover, the king is minded to ally himself with thee by marrying his daughter to Uns Al-Wujud, thine officer. So there is no help but thou dispatch him to me, that the marriage may be solemnized in her father's kingdom. And he wrote a letter to King Shamikh to this effect, and gave it to the minister, charging him strictly to bring back Uns Al-Wujud, and warning him, "And thou fail, thou shalt be disposed and degraded." Answered the Wazir, "I hear and I obey." And setting out forthright with the treasure, in due course arrived at the court of King Shamikh, who he saluted in the name of King Dirbas, and delivered the letter and the presents. Now when King Shamikh read the letter and saw the name of Uns Al-Wujud, he burst into tears and said to the Wazir, "And where, oh where is Uns Al-Wujud? He went from us, and we know not his place of abiding. Only bringing him to me, and I will give thee double the presents that thou hast brought me." And he wept, and he groaned, and he lamented, saying these couplets: "To me restore my dear. I want not wealth untold, nor crave I gifts of pearls, or gems, or store of gold. He was to us a moon, and beauty's heavenfold, passing in form and soul, with roe compare withhold. His form a willow wand, his fruit lures manifold, but willow lacketh power, men's hearts to have and hold. I reared him from a babe, on cot of coaxing rolled, and now I mourn for him, with woe in soul ensouled." Then turning to the Wazir, who brought the presents and the missive, he said, "Go back to thy liege, and acquaint him that Uns Al-Wujud hath been missing this year past, and his lord not knowing whither he has gone, nor hath any tidings of him." Answered the minister of King Dirbas, "O my lord, my master said to me, and thou fail to bring him back, thou shalt be degraded from the Wazirate, and shall not enter my city. How can I return without him?" So King Shamikh said to the Wazir Ibrahim, "Take a company, and go with me, and make ye search for Uns Al-Wujud everywhere." He replied, "Hearkening and obedience," and taking a body of his own retainers, set out, and accompanied by the Wazir of King Dirbas, seeking Uns Al-Wujud. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 379th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Ibrahim, Wazir to King Shamikh, took him a body of his retainers, and accompanied by the minister of King Dirbas, set out seeking Uns Al-Wujud. And as often as they fell in with wild Arabs or others, they asked of the youth, saying, 'Tell us, have you seen a man whose name is so-and-so, and his semblance thus and thus?' But they all answered, 'We know him not.' Still they continued their quest, inquiring in city and hamlet, and seeking in fertile plain and stony hall, and in the wild and in the wold, till they make the mountain of the bereaved mother. And the Wazir of King Dirbas said to Ibrahim, 'Why is this mountain thus called?' And he answered, 'Once of old time here journeyed a Jinnah of the Jinn of China, who loved a mortal with passionate love, and being in fear of her life from her own people, searched all the world over for a place where she might hide him from them, till she happened on this mountain, and finding it, cut it off from both men and jinn. There being no access to it, carried off her beloved, and lodged him therein. There, when she could escape notice of her kith and kin, she used to privily visit him, and continued so doing till she had borne him a number of children. And the merchants sailing by the mountains in their voyages over the main heard the weeping of the children, as it were, the wailing of a woman bereft of her babes, and said, 'Is there here a mother bereaved of her children?' For which reason the place was named the Mountain of the Bereaved Mother. And the Wazir of King Dirbas marveled at his words. Then they landed, and making for the castle, knocked at the gate, which was opened to them by a eunuch, who knew Wazir Ibrahim, and kissed his hands. The minister entered, and found in the courtyard among the serving men a fakir, which was Uns Al-Wujud. But he knew him not, and said, 'Whence cometh yonder wight?' Quoth they, He is a merchant who hath lost his goods, but saved himself, and he is ecstatic. So the Wazir left him and went on into the castle, where he found no trace of his daughter, and questioned her women, who answered, We not how or whither she went. This place misliked her, and she tarried in it but a short while. Whereupon he wept sore, and repeated these couplets. Ho, thou, the house whose birds were singing gay, whose sills their wealth and pride were wont display. Till came the lover wailing for his love, and found thy doors wide open to him. Would heaven I knew where is my soul, and erst was home and house whose owners fared away. 'Twas stored with all things bright and beautiful, and showed its porters ranged in fair array. They clothed it with brocades, a bride become. Would I know whither went its lords, say. And after ending his verses, he again shed tears, and groaned and bemoaned himself, exclaiming, There is no deliverance from the destiny decreed by Allah, no is there any escape from that which he hath predestined. Then he went up to the roof, and found the strips of balbak stuff tied to the crenels, and hanging down to the ground, and thus he knew that she had descended thence, and had fled forth as one distracted and demented with desire and passion. Presently he turned, and seeing there 2 birds, a gull and an owl, he justly deemed this an omen of ill. So he groaned, and recited these couplets. I came to my dear friend's door of my hopes and goals, whose sight mote assuage my sorrow and woes of soul. No friends found I there, nor was there another thing to find save a corby crow and an ill-omened owl. And the tongue o' the case to me seemed to say, Indeed, this parting 2 lovers fond was cruel and foul. So taste thou the sorrow thou madest them taste, and live in grief when thy ways, and now in thy sorrow prowl. Then he descended from the castle roof, weeping, and bade the servants fare forth and search the mount for their mistress. So they sought for her, but they found her not. Such was the case, but as regards Uns Al-Wujud, when he was certified that Rose and Hood was indeed gone, he cried with a great cry, and fell down in a fainting fit, nor came to himself for a long time, whilst the folk deemed that his spirit had been withdrawn by the compassionating one, and that he was absorbed in contemplation of the splendor, majesty, and beauty of the requiting one. Then, despairing of finding Uns Al-Wujud, and seeing that the Wazir Ibrahim was distracted for the loss of his daughter, the minister of King Dirbus addressed himself to return to his own country, albeit he had not attained the object of his journey, and while bidding his companion adieu, said to him, I have a mind to take the fakir with me. He may be Allah Almighty will incline the king's heart to me by his blessings, for that he is a holy man, and thereafter I will send him to Ishpan, which is near our country. Do as thou wilt, answered Ibrahim. So they took leave of each other, and departed each for his own motherland, the Wazir of King Dirbus carrying with him Uns Al-Wujud. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 380th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the Wazir of King Dirbus carried with him Uns Al-Wujud, who was still insensible. They bore with him on muleback, he unknowing if he were carried or not, for 3 days, when he came to himself and said, Where am I? Thou art in the company of the minister of King Dirbus, replied they, and went and gave news of his recovery to the Wazir, who sent him rose water and sherbet of sugar, of which they took him to drink, and restored him. Then they ceased not faring on till they drew near King Dirbus' capital. And the king, being advised of his Wazir's coming, wrote to him, saying, If Uns Al-Wujud be not with thee, come not to me ever. Now, when the Wazir read the royal mandate, he was grievous to him, for he knew not that Rose and Wood was with the king, nor why he had been sent in quest of Uns Al-Wujud, nor the king's reason for desiring this alliance, whilst Uns Al-Wujud also knew not whither they were bearing him, on that the Wazir had been sent in quest of him. Nor did the Wazir know that the fakir he had with him was Uns Al-Wujud himself. And when the minister saw that the sick man was whole, he said to him, I was dispatched by the king on an errand which I have not been able to accomplish. So when we heard of my return, he wrote to me, saying, Except thou have fulfilled my need, enter not my city. And what is the king's need? Asked Uns Al-Wujud. So the Wazir told him the whole tale and said, Fear nothing, but go boldly to the king and take me with thee, and I will be surety to thee for the coming of Uns Al-Wujud. At this, the Wazir rejoiced and cried, Is this true which thou sayest? Yes, replied he, whereupon the Wazir mounted and carried him to King Dirbas, who, after receiving their salutation, said to him, Where is Uns Al-Wujud? Answered the young man, O king, I know where he is. So the king called him to him and said, Where? Returned Uns Al-Wujud, He is near-handed and very near, but tell me, what wouldst thou have with him, and I will fetch him into thy presence? The king replied, With joy and great glee, but the case calleth for privacy. So he ordered the folk to withdraw, and carrying Uns Al-Wujud into his cabinet, told him the whole story. Whereupon quoth the youth, Robe me in rich raiment, and I will forthwith bring Uns Al-Wujud to thee. So they brought him a sumptuous dress, and he donned it and said, I am Uns Al-Wujud, the world's delight, and to the envious a despite. And presently he smote with his glances every sprite, and began these couplets to recite. My loved one's name is cheerless solitude, cheereth me, and driveth off my despairance and long despondency. I have no helper but my tears, that ever flow and found, and as they flow they lighten woes, and force my grief to flee. My longing is so violent, not like it e'er was seen. My love-tale is a marvel, and my love a sight to see. I spent the night with lids of eyes that never close in sleep, and pass in passion twixt the hells and Edens heavenly. I had of patience fairish store, but now no more have I, and love's sole gift to me hath been growing misery. My frame is wasted by the pain of parting from my own, and longing changed my shape and form, and made me other be. My eyelids by my torrent tears are chafed and ulcerated, the tears whose flow to stay is merely impossibility. My manly strength is sore impaired, for I have lost my heart. How many griefs upon my griefs have I been doomed to dree? My heart and head are like an age with similar hoariness, by loss of beauty's lord of lords, the galaxy. Despite our wills, they parted us, and doomed us parted wone, while they our lords desire no more than love and unity. Then would heaven that I wot if stress of parting done, that world will grant me sight of them in union fain and free. Roll up the scroll of severance, which others would unroll, efface my trouble by the grace of meeting's jubilee. And shall I see them homed with me, and in company, and change my melancholic mood for joy and jollity? And when he ended his verse, the king cried aloud, By Allah, ye are indeed a pair of lovers true and fain, and in beauty's heaven of shining stars, a twain. Your story is wondrous, and your case marvelous. Then he told him all that had befallen Rose and Hood, and Uns Al-Wujud said, Where is she, O king of the age? She is with me now, answered Dirbas, and sending for the Qazi and the witness, drew up the contract of marriage between her and him. Then they honored Uns Al-Wujud with favors and bounties, and sent to King Shamikh, acquainting him with what had befallen, whereat the king joyed with exceeding joy, and wrote back to the following purport. Since the ceremony of contract hath been performed at thy court, it behoveth that the marriage and its consummation be at mine. Then he made ready camels, horses, and men, and sent them in quest of the pair. And when the embassy reached King Dirbas, he gave the lovers much treasure, and dispatched them to King Shamikh's court with a company of his own troops. The day of their arrival was a notable day. Never had been seen grander, for the king gathered together all the singing women and the players on instruments of music, and made wedding banquets, and held high festivals 7 days. And on each day he gave largesse to the folk, and bestowed on them sumptuous robes of honor. Then Uns Al-Wujud went in to Rose in Hood, and they embraced, and sat weeping for excess of joy and gladness, whilst she recited these couplets. Joyance is come to spelling cark and care. We are united, enviers may despair. The breeze of union blows in quickening, forms hearts and vitals fresh with fragrant air. The splendor of delight with sense appear, and round us flags and drums show gladness rare. Deem not we're weeping for our stress of grief, it is for joy our tears as torrents fare. How many fears we've seen that now are past, and bore we patient what was sore to bear. 1 hour of joyance made us both forget what from excess of terror grayed our hair. And when the verses were ended, they again embraced, and ceased not from embrace, till they fell down in a swoon. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 381st night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Uns Al-Wujud and Rose and Hood embraced when they foregathered, and ceased not from their embrace, till they fell down in a swoon for the delight of reunion. And when they came to themselves, Uns Al-Wujud recited these couplets. How joyously sweet are the nights that unite, when my dearling deigns keep me the troth she did plight. When union conjoins us all that we have, and parting is severed and sundered from sigh. To us comes the world with her favor so fair, after frown and aversion and mighty despite. Hath planted her banner, good fortune for us, and we drink of her cup in the purest delight. We have met and complained of the pitiful past, and of nights, a full many that doomed us to blight. But now, O my lady, the past is forgot. The compassionate pardon the past for unright. How sweet is existence, how glad is to be. This union my passion doth only incite. And when he ended his verse, they once more embraced, drowned in the sea of passion, and lay down together in the private apartment, carousing and conversing and quoting verses and telling pleasant tales and anecdotes. On this wise 7 days passed over them, while they knew not night from day. And it was to them for very stress of gaiety and gladness, pleasure and possession, as if the 7 days were but one day with ne'er a morrow. Nor did they know the 7th day but by the coming of the singers and players of instruments of music. Whereat Rose and Hood beyond measure wondered, and improvised these couplets. In spite of envious jealousy, at end we have won all we hoped for of the friend. We've crowned our meeting with a close embrace. On quilts where new brocades with sendal blend, on bed of perfumed leather, with the spoils of downy birds luxuriously to stand. But I abstain me from unneeded wine, when honeydew lips sweet must lend. From now the sweets of union we unknow. Time near and far, if slow or fast it wend, the 7th night hath come and gone. Oh, strange, how went the nights we never recked or keened? Till on the 7th, wishing joy, they said, Allah, prolong the meet of friend with friend. When she had finished her song, Uns Al-Wujud kissed her more than 100 times, and recited these verses. O day of joys, of either love or fain, that loved one came and freed from lonely pain. She blessed me with all inner charms she hath, and companied with inner grace deep lain. She made me drain the wine of love, till I was faint with joys her love had made me drain. We toyed and joyed on each other lay, then fell to wine and soft melodious strain. And for excess of joyance never knew how went the day and how it came again. Fair fall each lover, may he union win, and gain of joy like me the amplest gain. Nor we the taste of severance bitter fruit, and joys assain them as they us assain. Then they went forth and distributed to the folks alms and presents of money and raiment and rare gifts and other tokens of generosity. After which Rose and Hood bade clear the bath for her, and turning to Uns Al-Wujud said to him, O cooleth of my eyes, I have a mind to see thee in the Hammam, and therein we will be alone together. He joyfully consented to this, and she let scent the Hammam with all sorts of perfumed woods and essence, and light the waxed candles. Whereupon they arose and fared to the bath, and took their pleasure therein, after which they returned to the palace, and there abode, in the fullness of enjoyment, till there came to them the destroyer of delights, and the sunderer of societies. And glory be to him who changeth not, neither ceaseth, and to whom everything returneth. And they also tell the tale of Abu Nowas, with the 3 boys and the Caliph Harun Al-Rashid. Abu Nowas one day shut himself up in making ready a richly furnished feast, collected for it meats of all kinds and every color that lips and tongues can desire. Then he went forth to seek a minion worthy of such entertainment, saying, Allah, my lord and my master, I beseech thee to send me one who befitteth this banquet, and who is fit to carouse with me this day. Hardly had he made an end of speaking when he espied 3 youths, handsome and beardless, as they were of the boys of paradise, differing in complexions, but fellows in incomparable beauty, and all hearts yearned with desire to the swaying of their bending shapes, even to what saith the poet. I passed a beardless pair without compare, and cried, I love you, both you fairly fair. Moneyed, quoth one, quoth I, and lavish too. Then said the fair pair, Per se notre affaire. Now, Abu Nowas was given to these joys, and loved to sport and make merry with fair boys, and called the rose from every bright blooming cheek, even as saith the bard. Full many a reverend sheikh feels sting of flesh, loves pretty faces, shows of pleasure, depot, awakes in Mosul, land of purity, and all the days dreamed only in Aleppo. So he accosted them with a salutation, and they returned his greeting with civility and with all honor, and would have gone their several ways, but he stayed them, repeating these couplets. Steer ye steps to none but me, who hath a mind of luxury, old wine that shines with brightest blee, made by the monk in monastery, and mutton meat the toothsomest, and the birds of all variety. Then eat of these, and drink of those, old wines that bring you jollity, and have each other turn by turn, shampooing this my tool, you see. Thereupon the youths were beguiled by his verse, and consented to his wishes. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And so do I cease my tale for the day, till it be morrow.